welcome. You're watching Money 9. I'm Sakshi Batra, and on this show, we discuss everything about stock markets. Well, after those record high levels, we have been seeing some signs of a cool off. Now, will this deepen into a bigger correction? How much correction, if at all? And investors are wondering, what should you do if at all a massive correction does come in the markets? To help us with all of this is a very special guest joining me. I have with me Mr. Vivek Bajaj joining in, co-founder of Stock Edge. Thank you so much for taking out time for us, and it's a special interaction. Thank you so much for taking out time for this one as well. Now, let me kickstart by understanding from you that we have been amid this massive bull run of 1.5 years, 18 odd months. Something which we have never seen before. It has been a market which is quite unique in a many senses, that a bull market which has never been interrupted, not even a 5% correction has been seen, and everybody has been just waiting for that correction to come. So how would you characterize really the current market environment? Is it FOMO? Is it euphoria? Is it a bubble? Something that you would want to describe this market with?
Sakshi, thank you so much for having me, and it's always a pleasure to interact with you. So when we talk about bull market, are we talking about bull market which started after COVID, or we are talking about bull market which started after 2008 crash? I believe that the bull market has been there since 2009, and we have been part of the structured bull market where the flow of liquidity has been instigated by multiple governments all around the world, and that money printing has been there with us. COVID was an intermission. COVID happened because no one predicted it, and it just happened and market fell. So for me, bull market is not from the point when COVID started. For me, this is a continuation of a massive structural bull market, which we all have witnessed. So market was at around say 11,500, 12,000 levels when COVID happened, and market is today is 18,000, which is a continuation of where it left. Whether this will continue or not, it largely depends upon the macro factors, not just corporate earnings. I think the whole concept of earning driving the market price, that has been negated by market over and over again. It's not something which has happened recently. In 2000 also we saw the same thing. Earnings and prices were getting disconnected. 2008, whoever lived that time have seen this happening. And the same thing is happening where liquidity is overpowering valuation. And till interest rates is low, till the government all around the world have clear intention of keeping the money printing on and interest rates low, the structural bull market is intact. There will be corrections, which is healthy, but the structural bull market is intact.
Okay, so the structural bull market is quite intact, and we may see higher levels from here on as well. But just like how you pointed out that there may be some corrections going on, and since you said that this is a bull market which has been going on since 2009, so it's a long way ahead on the upside. We are yet to see how long will it last. But if in case there was a correction to happen, how much of a correction are investors or should investors be prepared for? And at that point in time, how to decide what to do exactly when the correction really happens? Should you sell out? Should you sell out before in anticipation of correction? And how to decide if at all you have some spare cash left, what to buy then?
So Sakshi, this is a very tough question.
Yeah.
And most of the retail investors, they don't have understanding about exit. Because everyone in the entire ecosystem is busy asking people to invest. That means enter. But no one actually talks about the exit plan. I personally believe, based on my experience of market, that you cannot exit at one particular price point. Take an example of IRCT. Now, IRCTC was a classic case study where if you would have waited for the top, which is 6,000, then obviously you would have just waited and you see where the price is right now. So for a retail investor, it is always preferable to do staggered buying and staggered selling. Sure, you will repent that, oh, I sold 20% of my value at lower price. I would have made a lot of money. That I would have made a lot of money. That is the real problem, which I think that's more emotional problem rather than the tactical problem to handle. So I think buying 20%. So it depends upon the risk profile. Someone would say 50-50, someone would say 25%, that means 4 tranches. Someone will say that no, I have a lesser risk profile, so let me do 10 tranches. So 10% buying at every level, 10% selling at every level. I think that works well for a retail investor who is active in the market. But for someone who is value investor, who identify businesses which has value, there is no question of exit unless you see a business not performing as per the expectation. That is like a 1 quarter, 2 quarter observation, and after that you finally take a call that I had enough, I need to get out of this company.
Right. Now, since we've talking about exit times and how to decipher that for yourself, for your portfolio and the companies that you hold, but in case there is a 5-10% kind of a correction that happens today, even a 20% correction if it happens today, then should one really bet on those stocks that have performed in this 1.5 years, or how should really one decide that where is the exact money making strategy and what should be that?
Great question, Sakshi. So let me take this opportunity to explain a concept to people. So when you are investing in any sector, either you are investing in value stories, in growth stories, in cyclical stories, or in momentum stories. Now, what has happened? The whole world has started giving a lot of importance to momentum, which is for obvious reason, because there's so much of liquidity, everyone has cash, so people love to play short-term momentum and get out of that once they have made money. There's nothing wrong with that. But the risk profile associated with all 4 category of sectors is very different. If you are a value investor and if the price fall, you should have a big smile on your face that you are getting that same thing at a lesser price, so you should be happy. If you are a cyclical investor, that means you invest in cyclical sectors like probably sugar or all these agriculture or for that matter real estate as well, then you should be mentally prepared to observe the change in the cycle. And if you see that yes, the cycle is changing, then you should be the first one to exit. Because if you are in a party and if you are the last person to exit the party, obviously it doesn't mean that you're going to enjoy the most. You want to exit when you are at the peak of your enjoyment. So cyclicality works like that. You have to track the business cycle and the commodity prices to track the business cycle. If you're a growth investor, then you are not investing for 6 months or 1 year. You are investing for a story which is a structural growth story, which is probably a binary business. Let's take an example of Zomato. Now, can anyone think of exiting Zomato at this price right now? My question is, why are you invested in this company? Definitely, you don't have a 1 year, 2 year view, right? You have a 10-year view for this company. So there's no question of exit even if the price falls by 10%, right? And momentum is, I think, one should clearly measure the momentum, and there are a lot of stocks which gain momentum, but you should be mentally prepared to book your profit or book your losses as well when the momentum dies down.
Okay, understood. Since you've been talking about IRCTC and Zomato, the new entrants, some of them have actually kind of surprised the analysts, going ahead of fundamentals, valuations, whatever analysis they have been valuing the company with, and still have performed very well. And this 1.5 years we have seen, it has also been a market of complete IPO frenzy. So how are you advising all your clients at this point in time, all the first-time investors who have been extremely big in the kind of chunks that they have been lining up and queuing up to get these IPOs or a slice of it as well? We are going to be seeing many more blockbuster ones again, anticipated blockbuster ones, Paytm, Nykas of the world, Policybazaar. Do these merit attention if there is a first-time investor and they want to try their luck here?
I think people should study US markets. Inevitably in India, things happen the way it has happened globally, and US market is the most vibrant and most capitalistic market. All these new businesses, IPOs have been part of US market for last 4-5 years, right? And if you study them closely, the concept of short-term profitability, the concept of quarterly targets and quarterly profitability of the companies, at least for the new gen businesses, is no more existent there, right? And people are talking about futuristic, future potential, etc. So if any investor can understand this, I was actually listening to Ramdev Agarwal of Motilal, and he also mentioned that they invested in Zomato, and I was listening to him very closely, and he said that, probably for an old schooler, it was difficult to digest these kind of business models. But the
Hmm.
fact that if they are spending a lot of money in marketing, that should become a balance sheet item and not just a PL item. So he was so clear, and that's the reason why he changed his mindset from being a traditional investor to a modern new gen investor who understands these business models. So I think it is clearly appetite of that investor to understand those kind of business models. And if you don't understand, stay away. If you understand, then these businesses are like binary. It's like
Right.
one or zero. If you do
Right.
it, if it works fine, you make a lot of money.
Right. Since you gave the example of US markets in this new age digital disruptors that have entered the markets, in the US market, we have seen huge companies making massive money. The top companies being Facebook, Amazon, Netflix. Do any of our new entrants in the Indian markets have that capability to become the Amazon of India or become the Facebook of India? Any of that you analyze? Have you analyzed any of that?
Well, I think quite a lot of them have actually ventured out and they have targeted to become a biggie in India itself. And there are some of them who are still to be listed who have potential to become very big outside. Remember, there is a big market of unlisted startup in India where valuations have gone to a different level. Why? Because obviously there is potential of those startups from India to create a mark in global markets. Um,
Yeah.
and also remember this, that all these American companies or foreign companies, they look at India from very tactical perspective as a major consumption destination. I mean, because of straightforward, they don't have clear cut access to China, and considering our population base and our average age, they see India to be a major market for them. And
Right.
it's not easy to be in India on a standalone basis. You definitely need an existing infrastructure, existing ecosystem which will support you. So all
Hmm.
these Indian companies who are now big, potentially they are the one who will become a target for all these American companies to get buyout. So
Right.
the valuation is not just about the current market price, it's also the potential which the company can gain by getting bought by someone else. And
Correct.
American companies have access to so much of capital that these guys can give abnormal valuation to the companies which are listed in India.
Hmm. Okay, understood that. Several topics discussed. I also wanted to bring about that point that investors get stuck into after understanding, how to understand when to exit, after understanding what to buy, and how to know what you need to buy when there is a correction. But in case of these volatile moves that we are seeing in the markets, how does one really analyze what are the risks that could actually, what risk could be posed on their portfolios, and how to manage those risks is something that they should also know.
Well, I think the best way to manage your risk is to know what you are getting into. Most
Hmm.
of the time, we feel that this thing is risky because we don't know what we are into. If people have built their portfolio, which has stocks which have high beta, which has potential to give you high volatility, you should be mentally prepared that these are the these are the stocks which will give me pain. They will give me gain as well. When IRCTC was going up 15% every day, no one was complaining. And today
Complaining.
it has gone down 15%, so there is hue and high about it. So mentally, one has to be prepared. And I think the portfolio construct has to be so good that not very high percentage of your portfolio should be in such kind of a high beta stocks.
Right.
Yes, you should have it because these are like sweeteners which increases your taste appetite, but it can't be the main portfolio. If you
Hmm.
are a risky person, if you're 20-year-old, if you have the whole life ahead of you, and if you want to bet that 4 5 lakhs and try
Yes.
it out, then obviously you should have a higher proportion on momentum investing and lesser proportion on value investing. Depending upon the investor risk profile, I think these four clusters have to be understood, and permutation combinations around these four clusters have to be done.
Right. Also, since you talked about these 20 plus, investors, the new millennials who entered the stock markets and have had this Midas touch of sorts because the markets have never looked back in this last 1.5 years. But as an advice to them, can stock markets be really used to earn a regular income, keeping in mind that markets may not always stay this rosy that they have already seen? Many of the youngsters who have got a lot of time at their hand in this entire period where maximum of us were locked up inside our rooms and did not have much to spend in. So everybody of us got into the stock markets looking at the kind of returns that it was giving in, but some of them also went into for a regular income. Is that a
Yeah.
wise step?
I think a large part of population has come into this market because they had time.
Hmm.
And if I remember correctly, one of the large broking firms CEO, he mentioned that the average capital brought by these first time investors is very low. So
Hmm.
definitely return or absolute money is not the criteria. Right now people are trying, they're exploring new things. They understand that the future, you can't live this coming future without understanding of stock market. Even
Hmm.
though you're a mutual fund investor, you still
Hmm.
need to know stock market because it becomes core of all financial investments. In
Hmm.
fact, when I am interacting with youngsters and we conduct so many sessions with them, and I feel so good that youngsters have become very savvy of knowing what is happening because they know that their future career is also dependent on which sector in market will grow, and they can plan your career accordingly. So what I'm saying that money is not something which is driving with the new generation investors, millennials. Uh,
Okay.
because they anyways have a capital balance of 50,000 rupees. I mean, even if they make 2,000, 5,000, 10,000 a month from that, that is not exciting them. More than that, the learning piece is really exciting them. And also, just a small thing that it has become a fad. And people want to talk about it. People have
Right.
good points to discuss. So it's more
It's
reasons
the
to
new
become more
in
social with
thing.
people, no?
Yeah, absolutely. It's the new in thing and the new cool factor that everybody knows
Yeah.
about stock markets. You know about investment. You know about these new age fintech companies emerging, giving you a platform to go and explore the investment assets for sure. So, talking about these assets, if these new investors were to invest today, does it change the dynamics of how do you design your portfolio? Because we are at these high valuations at this point in time, or does it still remain that you need to be well diversified, as per your risk appetite and as per your age, you can take bigger risks into the stock markets, and then therefore the similar pattern follows for the other assets? How are you really addressing all those concerns?
So, Sakshi, there is a matrix one has to design for himself or herself. The
Okay.
matrix will have the age, and the matrix will have the valuation or the broader levels of the market. We all
Hmm.
know that these levels are expensive levels. You
Right.
need
Right.
not be doing a rocket scientist to know that these are expensive levels. We all know it because generally there everyone is talking about it.
Correct.
Now, if you design the matrix, then at these high valuation and at the age of 20, probably you will say that I will not invest in a high momentum stocks because market is so heated. So I will keep say 25-30% allocation there, and I will start moving away from hyper momentum stocks to more value stocks. Now,
Okay.
let's take an example of a say company called Reliance, okay, which
Hmm.
is very close to our livelihood these days as well. Now, we all knew what Reliance is doing. We all knew that it is becoming the heart of our country because of the pipeline which it has laid as far as telecommunication and data is concerned. Now, that company has value because it has Reliance Retail, it has petrochemical business, it has Geo and the data business which they are getting into. And
Hmm.
the company also has growth because data is the next oil. So value plus growth makes it a comfortable investment. This I've been talking since Reliance was 1100 and today it is 2700. But today
Yes.
also the same story is intact. Maybe it will look expensive, but doesn't mean that the stock will correct to 1500, 1600. Maybe it will correct by 10%. But still the stock is poised to go up. So from hyper momentum portfolio, one can add more value and growth oriented stocks to make it more cushioning.
Okay. And like I've been asking a whole lot of my experts on our platform right now that, at this stage in time, is there one or two, are there one or two stocks that you have on your mind that if you were to keep only one or two stocks in your portfolio, which ones would those be despite the kind of valuations that we are at currently?
Well, see, I'm a conservative investor, and I always think extremely long term. So there are five stocks which I
Okay.
believe have a perfect combination of value and growth.
Okay.
One is Reliance. The other is Kotak Bank. I think Kotak Bank is, even though it is expensive, it will always remain a great value play in our country because it has so many businesses embedded as part of their single company, right? And just a disclaimer that Kotak Securities is invested in Stockade, so just want to mention there are nothing related to that. Third is Naukri. Can any individual imagine becoming a VC? Now, just holding one share of Naukri, right now it's 7,000. I've been speaking about these stocks when the price was 4,000, 3,500. With only one share, you can actually become a VC and you are participating in the next gen growth story of our country. So that is one stock. Then you have State Bank of India. Massive. If India has to grow to a $5 trillion economy, this stock has to outperform. This business has to outperform. And these are very safe bets. You don't have to really think so hard in putting your money in these companies. Continuously do your SIP, and for sure you will, generate a decent ROE for yourself.
All right. Well, on that note, thank you so much, Mr. Bajaj, for sharing all these wonderful insights with all our viewers and absolutely spelling out the strategies that they need to adopt in this kind of a current market as well. Always a pleasure having you with us on our platform. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Sakshi. Thank you.
All right. And with that, we wrap up this edition of Market Masterclass for you. But more interesting things coming up right up on Money9 for you on markets and on personal finance. So do stay tuned in. And for that, you need to subscribe to our YouTube channel and also stay with us via our social media handles and also visit our website money9.com. Many thanks for tuning in for now.